How are you? Hello, welcome back. I have nothing to sell you. I have nothing to sell you. Welcome back, guys. I'm Ryan. I wanted to make a video about a shift. There's a shift. There's a big change. Oh my God, everything's changing. Just joking. It's just things happening in culture I wanted to talk about. I'm talking again about the ugly home industrial complex. Whether we like it or not, I'm gonna keep chatting about it because I am having so much trouble decorating my apartment and we have nowhere to go now. We have nowhere to go, essentially. What I asked was, can people identify if something has value if it's not viral at this point, if it is not popular? And I think less and less so, right? If something is not viral or a part of a broader collective desire to signal around a specific object, do people know if it has value? Do we have that ability for discernment? The answer is no. Everything is so like viral comment section coded as well. Like, I don't know if people have been noticing how many people are arguing about polyester, the mirror polyester fights that people have, people saying that they don't want anything poly, people saying it doesn't make sense for Issey Miyake's clothes to be priced high when they're made out of poly, or for people to value them if they're made out of poly. It's like, people don't know things a lot really often now. Like, people don't understand things, they don't work to learn things, they just repeat things that they've seen or sentiments that they've seen online. And when I was on TikTok talking about this, I kind of simplified the framing and phrasing of it because it's TikTok. I'm not trying to say that like this is something that's unprecedented and this is different than anything else. I'm just saying there's like a shift. So I'm asking, do you ever buy things and not think, this is something I saw on TikTok, this is something I saw on Pinterest? Do you? And it's okay if you don't, but I'm saying to like think about that. Like, would you know how to design a space without making sure to signal to these things? Does everything that you own go back to something that you saw on TikTok or Twitter or Instagram or Pinterest? Is there anything you've read in a magazine or learned about independently, researched by yourself? Maybe it doesn't look like the things that are popular and cool. And I'm not saying this like everybody should be different and niche. That's not really my point, but we'll get into it. So again, it's not to say that I'm against collective signaling. I think it's also really beautiful when we participate in trends. A lot of people think I don't and that I would hate that, but I don't think that. I think it's beautiful to be a part of a broader thing. I also don't care. Like, I don't care about anything. I'm so cool. Just kidding. But I love a movement. I love everybody. I love broader collective meanings. But I do think something should be singular to our experience in the ways that we consume, especially, but the ways that we craft spaces for ourselves or get dressed. Like, these are things that are so like personal. Something that's personal to you should be personal to you. I'm so deep. I think that we should have some stories to tell that come from being us. And I think that those are the stories that enchant us the most in the first place. We should have things that tell stories about being us, not just about how much screen time we have. But even as an internet addicted, super connected to everything and everyone as a person, like, I know that there's so much that I don't have in common with people who are similar to that. It just can't always be that. So this video is a lot about Jonathan Anderson and taste signifiers and Pinterest as a shopping list. Could you survive as a blogger? That's what I think this section will be. Could you survive as a blogger? Would you make it out alive in this blogging apocalypse? This section being called They're Gonna Kill Me. Yes, unfortunately, y'all, I am bringing up Tumblr again, but Tumblr, Pinterest, mood boarding sites, you know, the supposed signifiers of taste on TikTok, to me, right now, and on Substacks as well, very often just glorified shopping guides of how to opt into the exact same 5 to 10 objects in the same exact styles and colors, the correct colorway, of course, to affirm this in-group signaling about how much screen time you have. I'm not down for it. I'm not trying to be so negative and judgmental in this video, but I'm just saying that, like, I don't think it's true to what people want, and that's my only issue with it. I know what boys like. I know what boys like. I know what they want. And I just want people I want people to be able to opt into things that serve them. And I think things are so stressful right now that sometimes people feel like whatever's easiest serves them the best because they don't have time, they feel, to think. They're so overwhelmed with option and information all the time. But I think we can move slowly, and I think that that's the best way to care for each other, especially, and the environment and the earth. I also try not to give examples of things like this because I don't want to dissuade anybody from enjoying what they like or encourage anybody to get rid of items that they enjoy currently. But that's why I like the tweet that's like, I'm not doing public ins and outs this year. You guys can ask me in person. I also don't want people to only ever opt into things that they're being bossed around about. I'm like, no, let these people, let them speak. I just think ins and out lists every year, not to be rude, but sometimes I find them really, really corny. Like, who are you? Who are you? That man ate when he said that. Shout out to him. Anyways, but I do always just find that taste means, at this point online, how to curate your Pinterest mood board effectively. That worries me. So on Pinterest mood board culture, you know what I've been wondering? Do people ever mood board for the beauty and majesty of arranging images next to each other? Are people mood boarding for the art and wonder of it? Because that's what Tumblr was. You're all going to be talking about Tumblr, I get it. But Tumblr genuinely was not a mood board for what to buy. None of us could afford any of this stuff. No one could afford designer clothes. Everybody posting about tabbies, Margiela tabbies, I would say close to 100% of people were never planning to interact with them in person. It was not about opting into these things by consuming them. It was about the exact opposite. So blogging was more important than owning these things. And that's what worries me about the shift in culture, is that it's not only about co-opting that time and co-opting the aesthetics of that time, but it's like misappropriating the point of that time. Like the reason why a lot of these aesthetic languages were established and a lot of these things are considered cool now is because of blogging. Blogging is not the same thing as creating a shopping guide. Always. Some blogs were a lot about buying and shopping and, you know, moving money, especially fashion blogs, but not these aesthetic blogs on Tumblr. That's what made it even distinct from Blogspot, because it was completely not financially viable, which, like, think what you want about that. But because it was about how do you establish an aesthetic language online, or a typed language even online. What would that be, like a scriptive language? I don't know. Graphic language online. It's not to say that people didn't and they were just such virtuous, great people, but it was like, you can't always keep that up in the same way that you can being good at having an established language. And also, it was about fashioning a self for everybody, and we can't opt into the fact that you're rich as much as we can opt into what you can create. So if somebody was cool online for being rich, you better make some music that we can post, right? You better have something that we can all also opt into for ourselves. That's what it was like. Also, many of us, it's partly because of the demographic of people who were really powerful at establishing online languages. I saw a post about the art culture recently, and I'm like, okay, reminder, a lot of the people there were children or teenagers and young adults. I've talked before about how, like, I'm so surprised that Rick Owens is popular with, like, kids and young people, because, like, we all knew about Rick Owens on Tumblr and we were like 18, 19, whatever. No one thought. Now we have to buy it. We're just kids. Like, I don't know, we can't really afford this. It's like just cool to like it. It's cool enough to like it. And I think that's the difference. I think about, like, how few people actually even owned Margiela tabbies at the time, but these were the people who established the aesthetic language for why they're cool and popular now. I think about Babies with Rabies, Arabelle Sacardi, some German bloggers I remember would have some, but, like, it was very few and far between. Tumblr was like the pinnacle of taste because it was about the singular expressions. What makes your blog different from someone else's? In a sea of blogs, how is yours special, right? And of course, there were unifying signifiers. Of course, if you posted Margiela tabbies, if you posted Solange or Frank Ocean or certain things, you know, these were ways of signaling a Prada show, a certain model, Doll Kim, things like this. Of course, it would, you know, signal to people that you're part of this broader cultural language, yes, but even in that in-group, it's contrary to right now because your distinctive language was your power. Especially weird blogs, rare photo blogs. You know how to find photos on your own that are so unique. That's amazing, right? It was about you having the sense of authorship. I know I use that word a lot, but it was literally about you being the creator, which isn't to say that it didn't have aspirational images. It did. And I'm not talking about a certain side of Tumblr, and I'm not going to, but there obviously were parts of Tumblr that were aspirational, but it was about your knowledge, your ability to be a historian, your ability to be an archivist, you know, very similar to how things are changing right now, where it's about, like, your intelligence. I told you the pendulum was going to swing back. Y'all don't listen to me. I'm just kidding. I have no brain. Okay, anyways, now because we use ourselves as the like the pens, the paintbrush, the paint, we are the paint on the canvas. This is so fake deep, but I'm trying to say that, like, we ourselves are being used as the language establishers when we're content creators. We're not being image curators. We're not being bloggers, right? It becomes much, much, much more important to consume, which is dangerous. And that's why I ask again, could you survive as a blogger? It's about how you look on your TikTok. How does your house look on your TikTok? How do your clothes look on your TikTok? So you better have a good look, a good house, and a good pair of clothes. Whereas on Tumblr, you could never even reveal what you look like and be the biggest blogger. Okay, so now this part is on taste. So taste to me should be about, or can be about, distinctive elements of your own discernment and not just your ability to properly follow rules. And I think that that's the central part of why, you know, the way that taste is conceptualized now is so different than you know, the way that I see it, because it's very much now about how do you follow the rules, what are you properly buying based on what you've been told to on these, you know, how to be chic, how to have taste YouTube videos or TikTok accounts or Pinterest accounts. It's like, did you follow the rules correctly? Okay, that's proof that you did demonstrate your taste. And it's like, even in following rules, I always think about, like, Who's establishing these rules? Are people who have the ability to visually curate or be inventive establishing these rules, or are companies that are trying to sell you things establishing them? Are platforms, like entire platforms, trying to sell you things, the ones who are creating these rules? Once they see these are the images that get put next to the other images, so it gets rewarded by the algorithm, and that's what shapes how they think, instead of being like in the world, which whatever. I love the internet, and I'm not someone who's like, no one should ever think of how they get dressed based on the internet. I saw a video where someone was saying that they didn't like that people get dressed. They were like, where would you wear this? Who cares? No, I don't agree with that, but you know what I mean? Yeah, now that you like this fashion and the way that I do my hair and makeup and the silver jewelry that I wear, now you know what's the perfect fragrance for the season, this. And you know what's the perfect like incense holder for the season, that. And you know how it arranges really nicely with this home interior piece, well. And then once you put that, then you need somewhere to store all the fragrances that you're collecting in your bathroom. Here. It's like, do you see what I'm saying? It just builds upon itself. And if the only thing I expect of you is that you also become a creator, there's nothing to sell you. Once you're the creator, I can't sell to you. And that's why Tumblr was so different. And it's not just about Tumblr, it's about like online visual languages, which is the next part, which I'm gonna talk about. Visual languages, let's get into it. So I've been reading about visual languages, and in the 2010s, Suzanne Murray wrote about new media and vernacular photography, revisiting Flickr, and I read through it, and she mentions that Flickr member pages existed as a decentralized network of similar images that contribute to construction of larger communities, describing it as a collaborative experience, share, display of memory, taste, history, daily life, and judgment. If you didn't know, Flickr was an image sharing site, and it was for photographers usually, whether they're professional or amateur, and you take your photos, you upload them, and they give you really high quality like pixelation. I think unique to a lot of other image uploading sites, Flickr, like they really honored like photographers' work in that way, where they would like, if it was a really, really big file, they would make it high resolution and whatever else. When she says that the member pages existed as a decentralized network of similar images, it makes me think about the ability to establish visual languages because of the time and culture that you're in as the person creating, not as the person consuming. I think like fashion TikTok, for example, contrarily feels so fragmented that any signifiers of taste right now feel too spread out, and they simultaneously feel superficial. You know, it's too superficial to even establish a similar meaningful network of taste. Everything feels right here, and also so spread out. It's like beauty culture can overlap with high fashion culture, can overlap with fragrance culture, because it's all about consumerism. It's not really about taste, and it's not like they're overlapping in a meaningful way where it makes sense because of the formal qualities or the functional qualities of anything that you would get this and this. It's just like people who buy this also buy this, which is very different, right? It's not people who appreciate this about this kind of thing appreciate this. It's just like the kind of girl who shops for this buys this. And I know I kind of talk about that a lot, so I'm not going to beat too into it, but the Flickr collectives were digital assemblages of images that pointed to broader understandings, right? On Flickr, the example that the book uses is there was a collective group called Aesthetics of Failure, where users would assemble collections of photos that were uploaded to the site that had like light leaks. Like there was a mistake happening in the photo. Oh, aesthetics of failure, you know, there was like an accidental glitch on the photo. And so then if you took a photo like that, a moderator could add it to that group. And like I said, another category would be like a group of aesthetically pleasing / like hipster looking photos. And it would establish and then reinforce that sense of boundaries around these visual languages. If you take it too far aesthetically, then it doesn't work. And if you don't take it far enough aesthetically, there's no edgy stuff, it doesn't work. If you're too in the middle, it doesn't work. It just has to be a perfect balance. In our heads, like in this shared sense of consciousness around these visual languages, it would create this sense of rigidity that I really, really liked. Felt very attuned with. Is this yellow? Okay, so I said that on TikTok, for example, as well, you have the Balenciaga city bag style. That was supposed to be a signifier that you were interested in reclaiming a particular era of past fashion, right? You were into the past and you were into vintage because you cared about the environment in part. You were interested in sustainability, maybe a certain politic. Whereas like instead now, if you like this Balenciaga City bag, it could mean that you have no clue what the bag signifies at all in terms of being reclaimed and brought back from the vintage market, because there are so many knockoffs. There are knockoffs even on TikTok Shop. Similar bag styles are sold at Free People. They're so disconnected from their origins. And it could mean that you waited until the bag style became ubiquitous and then opted in, that you don't care about sustainability. You waited for it to become knocked off. It could mean that you opted in earlier and closer to its origin point. You love the collective trend and that you like to opt into things that other people are doing. Like, it could mean anything now, and that's what I mean about like the dissolution of meaning that comes from these aesthetic languages kind of not having these rigid standards. Again, I know that's like very obvious and that's what I'm always talking about on here, but that's kind of my point, which brings us to part 2. Okay, part 2, Jonathan Anderson's taste signifiers. Let's get into it. So I talked on TikTok about how topical representations of taste have pushed us into the only outcome left, which is focusing on quality and artisanal work. Yeah! This is also connected to the hideous furniture industrial complex that I've created in my head, where everything in people's homes is mostly functionless. They're all functionless viral items rather than well-curated spaces, special, tastefully designed, satisfying objects to, adorn the space that you spend a lot of your time in, right? Sad. Even vintage furniture at this point is being hoarded a lot of times by venture capitalist concept store bros and marked up to these exorbitant prices. And then it's ultimately never bought, because I'm like, nobody's paying $2,000 for stuff that was cool in 2020 because people didn't used to know about it. Like, no one's getting this except for like celebrities and micro celebrities who are doing like an ad for like how they've designed their home for whatever magazine nobody cares about. I think about like the current vintage market, about how like these online marketplaces for secondhand selling things, and even an app I used to use all the time. Like, I can't speak for the way that app operates their business. They were a haven for like cool, odd vintage furniture. It was so well priced, and now a lot of what's on there is just unbought, unused, brand new furniture, and people are moving a lot. We're in an economic crisis because of the cost of living increases, rent increases, lack of affordability. Everybody's moving all the time. So people are getting rid of brand new stuff that they just got to throw in their house, and they want almost the full amount back because they haven't had time to use it, but they don't have time to move it somewhere, and they are uncertain about their futures, etc., etc. But it's not going to happen. No one's going to buy it. So it's going to sit on the market. And it's just like, now it's getting overcrowded with these knockoff pieces that I just mentioned that are based on the vintage pieces. So then the secondhand market is also overcrowded with junk, and then the vintage market is like completely taken away. It's just a mess. Otherwise, the pieces like mid-century modern imitations are knocked off by cheap furniture stores for way too much money. They're done with poor quality materials, and they exist as essentially a resignation that that's the best that you could do. It worries me because it's like we're losing the sense of discovery. We've lost the sense of the hunt. Nobody wants to work anymore. Get your in work. They don't get to nestle in and make a space cozy or a reflection of their actual interests, and they are absolutely intentionally rushing out to get whatever they can and throw it in their home and be like, that's close enough. It's the that's close enough furniture industrial complex, I would say. Even in the style space, I think a lot of, please don't beat me up, but the like cyber sigilism, silver furniture, silver jewelry aesthetic, like, I think a lot of it's been reduced and exhausted to the point of explosion. On TikTok, I was saying it was giving TJ Maxx. I really don't want to, but it is, and I love that. Shout out to my Maxxinistas. But it is kind of giving overconsumption core. Like, aesthetically, it feels like it looks like people who just shop too much because they have a really high level of screen time. Like, at the end of the day, how many cow fur hides can someone buy and put in the middle of their apartment? How many pieces of silver furniture can someone stack? It reminds me of when Patia's Fantasy World's Patia was at Dazed Archive Live, and she said that people's rooms look like, she was just saying like the cheap couches like the one I'm sitting on. Like, I don't know, it just looks bad. And she's just like, were you buying that because, like, what reason were you buying this? And obviously I would love to defend myself and be like, I bought this like couch because I blogged about it for years, but I bought it because it was honestly on sale. But I'm virtuous, I'm a great person. Anyways, I said I think that the exhaustion we have with this aesthetic in part was evidenced on Prada's runway in the fall 2025 show, which I loved. I loved that show. The collection had the scaffolding that was being built around them. You saw the viewers of the show with all the scaffolding next to them. It was these exploded, fragmented garments, the implication of the ending of something and the beginning of something else, right? The rebuilding period. let's take this all down and rebuild it. I have some quotes for the spring 2026 show that was reviewed by Miles Socha. Miles writes about how Raph says, we've talked about freedom in the way that you think about getting dressed. The collection is about reacting to the uncertain. Clothes that can change, shift, and adapt. That's what the House of Prada said. So think about function rather than the aesthetics. Function. Clothes that can change, shift, and adapt. Raph Simmons talked about finding beauty regardless of how difficult the world is. He's like, no matter how hardcore it is, essentially. So you have to deal with things regardless and get dressed in that context. And I think that that's more of the moment than these like symbolic connotations of fashion that we're seeing that don't have the same purpose, but we'll go on. Anything goes in the face of authoritarianism is what it says in the article. And I said it sparked this idea that anything goes is an answer to being controlled. You know, you want to get out of these boxes, including the confinement of the box of supposedly liberating dressing codes, right? And the correct way to signal weird girl dressing, right? It's still a box to fit yourself into, and intentionally disrupting that by being all over the place. Hello, tapping into even costumes, hence uniforms, aprons, signaling to your roles. It feels more authentic. It's very rookie mag, hipster, indie, HBO girls coded. Like, think about why people are wearing these sailor clothes and the military clothes and things like this. Of course, you want to go into the realm of costume when normal clothes, like everyday clothes, have gone in so many specific boxes and directions. And I'm not talking about micro trends or dash cores. That's not even my point. I just mean, like, even without naming things, like, there are certain ways to be weird and certain objects that signify it. And it's like, okay, then we need to just break out of all of it and make it so that it makes no sense and it's illegible and turn it into this explosion where it's like, okay, now I'm speaking in gibberish, copy me. It's like when someone's copying your homework and then you just start writing the wrong answer. And it's like, try and copy me now. Because you know you're going to plan to erase all of those wrong answers once they turn in their test and then write the correct ones now because you were stupid to try to copy. You know, it brings us closer to the invention period and the invention point. Okay? Whew. So that's where we're diving into the twee revival aesthetics and the unnamed chaotic dressing that's happening. The one-to-one recreations of stage dressing, Miss Mister, Blondita, etc. The sailor clothes, 2006 mall dressing, Delia's and the store Rave. You remember that store in the mall? Forever 21 revivals aesthetically, the military jackets that we've seen at McQueen. Very indie hipster, Urban Outfitters, American Apparel, kind of Fred Flair even, Portlandia vibe. It's like we have nowhere to go, so we're doing anything, period. Okay, I know it took me a long time to get here, but remember the Margiela video where I did the same thing? I think it's okay when it takes me a long time to think. Please, let me. The sun is setting later and later. I'm in a good mood. I'm feeling amazing. Jonathan Anderson, the new creative director of Dior, fits into this, though, with his deep dives into the art world and his new emphasis on lifestyle. He has a homeware flagship on Pimlico Road, according to Women's Wear Daily, Samantha Conti. She reports that he's also turned London, Milan, Soho, JW Anderson shops, etc. into these spaces that are more focused on home, and fashion is de-emphasized in those spaces. Think about why. I'm not gonna tell you. You think about why. No, you. So on Pimlico Road, according to Belgravia Village website, it's a design district for world-class craftspeople. It's a luxurious shopping space near Chelsea with antiques and interior design specialty objects, according to the Times. It's like a cute, vibrant neighborhood, I guess, of sorts. A place where they have a bunch of expert craftspeople for home pieces. So like Bonadea, luxury tableware and glassware, table linens. Pinch, which is a British design studio. In the Times, one half of the duo that does Pinch, Bannon, says it's like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory for people who are into interiors. Key to me is when they said in I think the Times article, it's a place where the rich can be left alone. An example of, you know, the way that this is used is Catherine Ireland works for A-listers in Hollywood. She loves Luke Irwin, Chelsea Textile, Benenson, and says that like Benenson did Lorne Michaels' home, and that when she was, you know, curating for Lorne Michaels, everything had to reflect the fact that that's who did his home. Jeffrey Benenson is a renowned 20th century British decorator and antique dealer. My POV is that the work isn't generally like inconspicuous. The way that people make out rich people's homes and interiors and fashion to be, it's not quote unquote quiet luxury. It's not generally inconspicuous. They're just not discernible to the average eye about why they're luxurious. They're not discernible to the average eye to be as luxurious as they are. It's not something everybody would pick up on, right? The hand-painted silk $850 lampshades, I don't think the average person would know that that's hand-painted silk or care or be like, that's what makes this luxurious in this space. You may not be able to discern why it's expensive. You may not even be able to anticipate the capacity for such extravagance, right? You might not even know there's such thing as these artisanal pieces to the degree that there are. You might not think of the ability to customize a home to this degree, to this extent, right? People move too often, and they always have disposable cheap furniture that are knockoffs of mid-century modern things, etc. Like, you might not be able to imagine this kind of beautiful, luxurious home building. I think about that in terms of like Chris Rock, the comedian, has this joke about how you didn't even know that rich people go to like nice dentists where they're ultra luxurious. Like, I always think about things like that. You don't know until you know things. Like, I think it's Bonadea. They have these 300-pound dinner plates, price 300 pounds in price. Dinner plates, mugs, table linens. On the website, they host their own homeware from their brand, and then also other artists and artisanal pieces. They have work from artists like Carla Baz, Anna Weatherly, a Hungarian hand-painted porcelain butterfly artist, and things like that, like naturescapes and things like this. Sylvia Formanovic does nature motifs. Buccellati does these beautiful silver nature motifs. I think this was the one with like a beautiful like sunflower or dandelion shaped silver object, l'objet, which is luxurious functional works of art using multi-generational artisanal techniques. Like, long story short, the thing is, these pieces don't look luxurious, I think, to the average eye. They look, to some people, maybe like gaudy, maybe too much, maybe repulsive. But that's also something I was saying about the wealthy aesthetics, that people think that they're these like conventionally beautiful or attractive things. Why would they? The whole point of wealthy people establishing taste and their taste level is to create discernment between themselves and the middle class. They don't want you to be able to know why they think something is beautiful. They don't let it be something that everybody thinks is beautiful. They don't wear things like that. That's why we were seeing these ultra wealthy people buy these super expensive clothes that were like hippie clothes. I forgot the name of the brand. But do you guys remember in 2020? They don't want you to be able to discern, not that they're rich because you're going to attack them for being rich. They don't want you to discern what they find valuable aesthetically so that you don't copy them and make it ubiquitous, because they want to have that distinction between themselves and you so they can identify each other, you know? So we may not be able to see why these things are beautiful, and they may not be beautiful to us, and that's legitimate too. I'm not legitimizing them and saying it's true that they're beautiful. I'm saying that this is what these people are sometimes opting into. It can be aesthetic, contrarily to what people on TikTok and these Substack articles, etc., construct as luxurious, or it can be like certain items are considered beautiful or valuable or luxurious and others aren't, and people don't have the fluency in these aesthetic languages to be able to discern why or why not. They can only associate them with things that are most familiar to them based on what they've been told is tasteful. Like, even when they go on these websites, they try to look for things that are like silver furniture, cyber sigilism, Pinterest home aesthetic. They cannot think, what is valuable about this to me other than what I've already seen before and I've been told is okay? You know, if butterfly painted plates become a trend, they would opt into it. But if they have to think for themselves, they can't really discern what they do and don't like and why, you know? And that worries me, because it's your life. I understand collective taste, but I'm just saying. A lot of the wealthy people also don't like these things as well. I'm not trying to say like, if you're wealthy, this is what you like, and I want to make that clear. It's for a particular kind of person in general, but it's evidence that taste is not about these more universal collective symbols, and I don't want it to be. Anyways, jumping back to Jonathan Anderson's stores. Conti says it's like a temple of craft and comfort, his Pimlico Road store. It's a store full of objects that satisfy and intrigue Jonathan himself. And I've told you guys about how Jonathan is very interested in and invested in the arts, and he's done art exhibitions. I always talk about his work at Offer Waterman because I went and he was talking about it there. And I was like listening to him very up close, and I was like, oh wow, work. And so it's about what he's able to establish, not just for the sake of like posturing and aligning with these collective tastes. And it reminds me a lot of the Rick Owens toothpaste collab with Salatin, where it's based on creating a sensory-driven experience. The brand was created by Christopher Vural after he had a stroke when he was 25 years old. He said that brushing his teeth became unbearable. It was like a very bad sensory experience for him and seemed extremely uncomfortable, of course. Half of his body was paralyzed, and then he had to regain the strength. Like, to have bad like sensory experience is not the best. He developed like synesthesia, where he could like experience his senses in a broader and different way than he used to, right? And I think people focus a lot when they see this collaboration between Rick Owens and this brand. They focus on the formal qualities of the toothpaste, especially because like they did a little like DIY ad with Rick, and Rick said that he used it, and so people are thinking about aesthetically they're aligned, of course, but I think that's true, and still the functional properties of the toothpaste align really closely to the way that Rick Owens constructs his brand and seemingly his lifestyle, right? He creates an extreme sense of ease in his design of his fashion, but also even in his lifestyle. He doesn't have that many clothes. He's like, get up and go, start exercising. He doesn't, distract himself with too many choices or stress or things like this, and his clothes do that for his wearers as well. Even if people hoard or try to collect a lot of Rick Owens, he creates such an extreme sense of ease in his design and his fashion. It's almost like modular granimals. His work fits into the lifestyle of his wearers so purposefully, and that's what he has in common with the toothpaste brand. Right? That this toothpaste brand is about creating a beautiful, pleasurable sensory experience for something that you have to do. It's essential, right? So when somebody positions that to be an easier, more pleasurable experience, it makes your life easier and more organized and healthier. That's what Rick Owens does in his work. So I think it's that way. Like Jonathan Anderson's store, I think, is trying to create that sense of function and purpose in the customers' lives as well. His store includes brushes by Hillbrush, King Charles III brush supplier. He's working with artisans and placing a stronger emphasis on legacy and heritage products. Nicholas Moss pottery made by dirt from his land in Ireland, powered by this storied ancient water wheel there, according to Women's Wear Daily. Like, it's about these like much deeper legacy and heritage stories, and also just like function and purpose. And I'm just like, we're in the world where everything can't be special. Like, everything can't be special with ready to wear and fast fashion, overproduction. Everyone just has too much. We all just have way too much. We have way too many clothes. Each piece feels less special, especially with the boom of the luxury industry and the secondhand market. Even designer clothes are so oversaturated, and Fashion Roadman has been talking about the gap between fast fashion and luxury shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. There's no way for anything to feel special when everything is considered special. I feel like the pace that the fashion industry encourages us to shop at could never satisfy people, but it could also never facilitate a strong relationship between yourself and your wardrobe. That's just my opinion. It's my opinion. And contrarily, I think expertise, quality, rarity, limited edition things, uncommon objects, things that are rare and uncommon because they take a long time to be made, because they were made on purpose to serve a function by somebody who has intention, though. Not things that are rare for the sake of facilitating overconsumption. Right? I think doing that rather than collective signaling to these broader cultural moments, especially online moments, to me, that makes the item feel more special and more important. Right? Personal enlightenment and actualization becomes more important than ostentation. That's what I said about the BBL clothes. Remember people wearing the tight BBL outfits? I'm like, yeah, it's about your ability to say that you are personally actualized. Like when you have all these objects in your home that point to times where you traveled and listened to someone tell you about why they made what they made, times where you were told by your grandmother about how to get high quality brushes and now you have it. A trek that you took all the way uptown to get those oils from that guy. You know what I'm talking about, that guy. Like things like this, like to me, those storied objects, it feels a lot more special than just being like, this is, the recognizable thing from the viral TikTok. It's not as special, right? Individual discernment rather than performed taste means not focusing so much on collective ideals. So instead, it's about having standards. Ooh, let's get some standards. Expectations, having an emphasis on function, purpose, and effectiveness. Those are exalted and placed on the pedestal now, right? Thank God for back to the hipster times, I'm telling y'all. And think about hipsters being so stringent on things that work and have a history and a legacy and something that they can talk about and be long-winded about. But anyways, right now brands are placing an emphasis on craft stories, heritage stories. Think about Bottega, always emphasizing the history and legacy of their craftsmanship and not just being like, remember that the celebrity has this viral piece. It's like, yeah, they have this viral piece because they care about the artisanal work. It positions you to reflect on how you would curate a space with your favorite, most prized object. We're kind of moving away from stores that are decorated with cool objects that signal your knowledge about and your participation in an in-group, and like the in-group status around niche objects and like the collective connotation. It's not so much about connotation, it's more literal, right? It's less about these symbols and it's more about like, what does it do? What is the real value, the real worth? And it's, we're in an economic recession. So like signaling, it's like, okay, we get it. What can you do with it? When you really have to, and in some ways it works on both sides, because sometimes, it becomes more enchanting to have something that does nothing but is really, really desirable and aspirational and special because everybody is just focusing so much on function. But this video has one subject matter. My opinion is that this is the opposite of the cool guy coffee table curating and co-opting of streetwear culture, where the goal was to signal discernible coolness, and it's more oriented around overlooked special objects because of their emphasis on quality and care and process, and bringing that kind of focus to the customer. Serve me, serve me, serve me. We're in serve me culture right now. I wonder if this reflection, personally, was the outcome of Jonathan having access to the Dior archive and appreciating the quality and legacy of, you know, all that he was able to see, plus his appreciation for art and art culture and legacy and culture and history in general, because he's always able to synthesize an abstract meaning in that way, and it just seems like that's what it is, and he's really good at turning those into genius business ventures. So I was just wondering where it came from, but I think that this will be really interesting, and I'm looking forward to how he's going to find his footing at Dior and continue, you know, using that. Maybe that's what brought him to do it with the JW Anderson stores, using that to continue to build out this stories. But yeah, I hope this was fun. I love you guys so much. I had so much fun writing this video. Love you. You see how dark it is? It's nighttime. I love you guys. Bye.